And good evening, barflies, lounge lizards, and welcome to the Atomic Snack Bar, a show that's
loved by thousands, hated by millions.
That's not what I was gonna say. It's not wrong though. And tonight we'll be taking a look at Death Race 2000 from 1975. Directed by Paul Bartel and produced by the great Roger Corman, Death Race 2000 is a sci-fi cross-country race film. Though dark in nature, it also has a real quirky side to it. Kinda reminds me of a live-action exploitation film version of the Hanna-Barbera Wacky Races cartoon from 1968. And it tells the story of a dystopian future set in the year 2000. And having lived through the actual year 2000, I much prefer this one. But it focuses on the Transcontinental Road Race, a cross-country race where a group of colorful racers speed across the US, all the while scoring points by striking and taking out pedestrians. And this one is just slam full of interesting and unique characters, amazing costumes, and fantastic looking cars. Kinda feels like an indie tabletop role-playing game from the 80s. The subject matter is dark, but it's just such a fun and wacky movie, you hardly even notice the mayhem. Director Paul Bartel also directed Cannonball, another cross-country road film. But snack bar patrons probably know Bartel best as an actor. He appeared in numerous genre pictures, including Rock and Roll High School, Escape from LA, and a favorite of mine, Amazon Women on the Moon. The film stars the legendary David Carradine as our lead, a black-clad racer known as Frankenstein. Kinda looks like the Frankenstein's monster had a baby with Darth Vader, whilst Winslow from Phantom of the Paradise watched from the corner. Yep, I did it again. But you know you were all thinking the exact same thing. But David Carradine did numerous great films over the years and played a significant amount of cool and memorable characters. But this one, alongside Kane from The Warrior and the Sorceress, are easily my favorites. Next up, we have a young lad by the name of Sylvester Stallone, who you probably know best from the greatest family drama about arm wrestling ever made, Over the Top. But he also wrote and directed Staying Alive. He may also have been in a couple of the best action movies ever made. Interesting thing about his role in Death Race 2000, he actually plays what is essentially the main antagonist of the film. Then we have Mary Woronov as another of our racers, Calamity Jane. Woronov is a prolific actress with a ton of genre film credits, including TerraVision, Rock and Roll High School and its sequel, Night of the Comet, and Hollywood Boulevard. My first exposure to her was in Rock and Roll High School Forever as Dr. Vader. Was she related to Darth? Obviously. Apparently, she appeared in 17 different films alongside Death Race director Paul Bartel. And finally, because there's just way too many people to highlight in this exceptional cast, I wanted to mention Martin Kove of the Karate Kid and Rambo fame, Don Still, who plays one of the race announcers who rocks some mighty fine neckwear, and a cameo by... It's not a hugely effects-heavy film, but there's a bit of carnage. See what I did there? And the special effects were credited to a Richard McLean who only has 3 credits to his name. But interestingly, the optical effects in the film are credited to Jack Rabin, who also worked on Cronus, The Giant Behemoth, The Man from Planet X, and the greatest love story ever put on film, Robot Monster. And see, that's why you should watch every episode I do. Moments just like that. Now, not sure if this counts as effects per se, but one of the standouts of the film were the awesome looking custom cars, which were designed by James Powers and built by Dean Jeffries. I wasn't able to find much on Powers, but Jeffries was a stuntman and designer who not only designed the vehicle in the Fred Olen Ray film The Phantom Empire and did some work on the Monkey Mobile, but he also designed Black Beauty from Green Hornet 66. Death Race 2000 was based on a 1956 short story by writer-director Ib Melchior titled The Racer. Screenwriter Robert Tom was hired to adapt the short into a screenplay, but director Bartel wasn't too keen on said screenplay, and Charles B. Griffith was brought in for a rewrite. And I'm sure you know his work from It Conquered the World, Attack of the Crab Monsters, and The Little Shop of Horrors. And speaking of Ib Melchior, I was informed recently that I've been mispronouncing his name. For some reason, I thought it was I.B. Melchior. One of those cases where the brain autocorrects incorrectly, I suppose. Carradine and Stallone did much of their own driving for the film, and it's often said that Corman did a bit of the driving as well because the cars were not road legal and the stuntmen didn't want to do it. As far as Carradine's casting, I've seen on a few different sources that the role was originally offered to Peter Fonda, who turned it down for being too ridiculous. But according to Corman himself,
he was my first choice for Frankenstein from the beginning.
But that was kind of how it went with this one. There was so much conflicting information on the film's making, it actually made writing the trivia section a little tough. For example, one source claimed that Bartel wanted the film to be more comedic, and Corman took most of that out. Then the very next source said it was Corman's idea from the start to make the film a dark comedy. So who knows? Besides, if you're looking for quality information, probably wouldn't be here to begin with. When Stallone read for his role in the film, Roger Corman said that he was the best heavy he had ever seen. Corman's wife Julie then commented that Stallone would also make a good leading man, to which Corman replied,
I said, no, I don't see him as leading man. I think he's just a good heavy.
And for car folks out there, Corman used Volkswagens for the racers. The reason being the location of their engines matched with those of race cars. They were just rebodied. And there were no backup cars and no doubles. Death Race received a comic book sequel in 1995 courtesy of Roger Corman's Cosmic Comics. It was written by Pat Mills of 2000 AD fame and was drawn by Kevin O'Neill and Trevor Goring. O'Neill you might know from Martial Law, along with Pat Mills, and The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. The comic took place 20 years after the film and told the story of Frankenstein's return to the race. It was the longest running of Corman's comic line, but was unfortunately never finished, much like the trivia section of this very video. And finally, the masseuse working on Stallone in the massage scene was Wendy Dio, wife of none other than... The film has a great, upbeat, wild, and wacky score by Paul Chihara, and this is just one of many highlights of the film. Chihara is a composer whose main claim to fame, at least in my book, was composing the theme for Manimal from 1983. Death Race 2000 has been released on VHS, Betamax, DVD, Blu-ray, possibly Laserdisc, and Viewmaster, though I may have made that last one up. And I give this one 4 atomic popcorns out of 5. This is a must-see film if you dig 70s exploitation films and dark yet wacky sci-fi. And this is one of those films that if you don't dig it, well, you're dead to me. No, I'm not kidding this time. And that's all the time we have for this week. Please like, comment, subscribe, watch the skies, and stay atomic.
Hey Spidey, isn't Marvel's new Pizzazz magazine fantastic?
Fantastic, but not perfect.
But Pizzazz has the lowdown on Jaws too, and more Sean Cassidy picks than his mother. It's sensational.
Sensational, but not perfect.
How about Pizzazz's Goofy Guide to TV? It's wild look at sci-fi movies. It's games, puzzles, comics. What could be more perfect?
Me on the cover, not the Hulk.
Pizzazz, the almost perfect new monthly from the off-the-wall gang at Marvel Comics.
Death Race 2000. You finished first or not at all?
Who are you anyway?
The best driver on Earth.
It's time for action.
They're out to stop the greatest driver on Earth on a death race across America. It's a cross-country road wreck. Death Race 2000.
They've declared war on the race, and on you.
David Carradine, Death Race 2000. Rated R. No more questions.